solid fats.
You'll also find us in fresh foods like avocados, nuts, and fish.
Before you put any baked goods, packaged, and prepared foods in your cart, read the labels.
Avoid our bad fats brothers, saturated and trans. They love to clog your arteries.
We're heart healthier, but let's face it, we're fats.
We all have the same 9 calories per gram, so watch your portions.
And thanks for shopping with us.
The Better Fat Sisters. Be kinder to your heart. Learn more and get recipes at heart.org/facethefats. Nationally sponsored by Canola Info.
Hey, West Michigan, we're less than a month away and time is running out to get your seats for the Total Money Makeover live event on May 5th at the Van Andel Arena. You can beat debt for good, but you better hurry. Get your seats now at DaveRamsey.com.
Presented by Macatawa Bank.
What did they do? What did they do to my city? I pushed Michael Yu away from the binoculars and took a look.
Hey!
In the streets below, traffic had stopped. Pedestrians were lying on sidewalks and curled up in doorways. There was no sign of violence, no wrecks, nothing like that. It was as if the people in New York had simply decided to stop whatever they were doing and pass out. Ice coated my stomach. A line from the prophecy rang in my ears.
And see the world in endless sleep.
Not dead. He has put the entire island of Manhattan to sleep. The invasion has started. To find out what happens next, read Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library and visit read.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name's Bob.
Hi, Bob.
I see this ad on TV. Says I can reduce my debt by 50%. I call. They told me to stop paying my bills, stop talking to my creditors. They'd take care of everything.
I gave them thousands, but most of it went to their fees.
Getting out of debt is neither quick nor easy. There are those who will tell you anything to win your trust.
I'm more in debt now because the fees and interest on my cards kept piling up.
Talk to your creditors directly, or to find a nonprofit agency near you, visit debtadvice.org.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Salma Ghani, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0.
Join the effort. Visit UNICEFUSA.org.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum.
And good morning, Muskegon. This is EyeOnMuskegon, and I'm Jim Riley here in Muskegon's Clear Channel Studios with my friend and engineer, that legendary Oscar Osbo, the gentleman whose car didn't start this morning and made it here nonetheless. Thank you so much, Oscar.
You're welcome.
And with us, helping us out today, is the co-host of the #1 rated Monday through Friday drive time morning talk show in Muskegon County. And Muskegon's #1 mover and shaker also, John Van Wyck.
We have been for years.
Yeah, for years. That's right.
And somebody came down the Holiday Inn over the weekend and gave me a picture in the WKBZ studios from years ago with me and Cliff Martin.
Oh, really? Oh, Cliff.
I was sitting there in the studio, and I don't know what I was in there for, but I had like really nice dark red hair and no beard.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it had to have been a JC thing back in the 70s.
Yeah, got to get that on the Facebook site.
Wow.
With Cliff Martin, that's got to be that. I mean, his voice always reminded me, if God could talk, that would be the voice right there.
Yeah, well, he was.
Cliff Martin was great.
Yeah.
Well, Cliff isn't here with us today, but we do have John and Oscar, two godlike voices. And, of course, while you anchor the #1 rated drive time morning show, here you are on the #1 rated political talk radio show in the entire county.
Absolutely.
Perhaps even.
I ran into some people in White Lake last week working on the power tour. We went up to the White Lake Chamber of Commerce meeting at the pub on Wednesday evening, and I found somebody that really hates you.
Well, that's good.
Really hates you. I said, well, you listen then.
That's our intent is to make those folks who are in fact hindering the progress of our county unhappy.
He said last week. He said something about people that want to give me a call that hate me. I said, we don't have that much time.
Yes, we do, as a matter of fact. And whether you are in love with with our wonderful show and myself in particular, or you are less impressed, certainly we want to have you on the radio. So give us a call, 231-830-3109. And again, that's really what the show is about. We want to talk with folks. We want to get the word out. I know that there's a view by the Chronicle, which is pushing it right now, that we need to be pointing out all the good things about Muskegon, of which there are many. But you're not going to fix the bad things about Muskegon if you avoid any conversation. And criticism is something that can be very helpful, and it's interesting that we started out with somebody criticizing your lovable little fuzzball myself. but here's a quote from Winston Churchill, a gentleman who also created a lot of friends and enemies in his life. And the quote is this: "Criticism may not be agreeable, but it is necessary. It fulfills the same function as pain in the human body. It calls attention to an unhealthy state of things." And that's exactly what we need. We need criticism, not attacks at all, but we want criticism and thoughtful criticism about what's wrong so that we can fix it. We want to get rid of the unhealthy state of things. We look around. We just saw last week there was an announcement that the health of the citizens in our county, in terms of chlamydia and other things, we are almost dead last in the state. We need to talk about that if we're going to fix it.
That's true. I mean, I like Winston Churchill quotes. Winston Churchill quotes. I've got one that I've remembered over the years. I think it's one of my favorite quotes of all times from anyone. Winston Churchill was in a reception, and a lady was there by the name of Lady Adderley, and he said, "Lady Adderley, I am drunk and you are ugly, and tomorrow morning I will be sober."
and of course, that was the positive criticism that perhaps both of them would have worked on.
He was kind of the Yogi Berra of his time.
Well, we want to provide a constructive criticism, and we want to provide a push so that our county can move forward. And we have coming at the 9 o'clock hour a special guest again, who's been a frequent guest on the show, and that's Muskegon County Commissioner Alan Jagger. Will be here a little bit after 9 o'clock. And he's, interestingly, he's the only county commissioner who's visited us during our radio community conversation, and all have been invited. There are 11 county commissioners who have been invited, all 11, and only one has felt the interest or the need to come on and talk with the folks here in the county.
You know, you should friend more on WKBZ's website. You got the Facebook site over there. Maybe Bob will come over there to Facebook on WKBZ. What do you think?
Well, Bob Skolnick, of course, is the county commissioner for the area right here in Norton Shores, and we'd love to have him on.
And friend WKBZ anyway.
And well, that's right, and we will do that.
You have to wait for him to come in to promote a concert.
Well, he does spends a lot of time promoning wonderful concerts in this community.
Great community service thing.
Well, nonetheless, Bob Skolnick and 9 more of his commissioners have chosen not to come, but Commissioner Alan Jagger, who is really the renegade, if you will, but the one gentleman I think is the bravest of them all, who stands up for the citizens and the taxpayers, certainly more than anyone else. And he will be here. We'll talk about a lot of things, one of which, of course, some things happening this week with the jail and with Brookhaven and things along those lines. But I will just, today, before we get into the Muskegon things, but today is an anniversary, a scary one. I would hope that we would all be frightened of what's possibly could be happening here. But 20 years ago today, the rioting began after the jury decision to acquit the 4 Los Angeles policemen in the Rodney King beating trial. And, of course, over the next 3 days, 54 people lost their lives. And it's clear that a lot of people are ginning up anger about what happened then. Of course, it's a 20-year anniversary, but also what's going on with this Trayvon Martin case. And I would certainly hope that the true, and I would say evil race baiters like Al Sharpton and others would tone down their rhetoric. I know that in many cases in the cities, it's not being toned down. And, of course, the President of the United States, when he wasn't eating dog burgers, came out and said the Trayvon, if he had a son, would look like himself. That might have been accurate, but it most certainly is not something something that's going to bring people together. It's going to be dividing. And so we have 20 years ago today.
I think our president's gotten involved in too many local things where he didn't have a lot of the information up front and reacted himself. And, I think it's maybe toward his personality and how he leads the country. Very reactionary, without the facts, he did that same thing up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with the police officer up there, with a buddy of his that was teaching at Harvard.
Ended up with the beer summit.
Yeah, those kind of things, it shows his kind of personality. And I don't know if I want somebody sitting there with a nuclear button in front of them reacting that way to situations.
Well, whatever the result is, certainly one would hope that we don't end up with 54 dead people.
Did you hear anything or say anything about the correspondents' dinner last night in Washington, D.C.?
Just some brief headlines.
The Jimmy Kimmel comment that he made?
No.
Jimmy Kimmel was the comedian, and they always have one that's kind of the MC. And Jimmy Kimmel said, Mr. President, he said, I'm going to tell some stories about the Secret Service, so if possible, if it's physically possible, cover your ears.
If it's physically possible. Okay. Well, that's it's
great to see the liberal comedians even having fun with the president.
I'm a throwback. I don't really see that type of humor directed at the president of the United States. I don't care who it is, as appropriate. And
it wasn't appropriate at all. But
it's what they do. Yeah, it is what it is.
Kimmel's very liberal.
Well, that's right. And certainly many of the folks who have supported the president in the past are thinking twice about it. And the same situation happened with George W. Bush and George Herbert Walker Bush and Bill Clinton. As a matter of fact, we have some things about Bill Clinton here today too, because on this day in history, I'm a big history guy, and these things.
And you do Clinton too. You do Clinton. So
I do. I did not do. Anyway. Okay, on this day, way back in 1789. Now, this was a bad day in history for leaders, all right, of all different types. But on this day in 1789, the mutiny on the Bounty took place.
Really?
And Captain Bligh certainly had a bad day.
Worse than mine.
Well, having a far worse day than Captain Bligh in 1945, Benito Mussolini and his mistress, they were execularly by Italian partisans.
Hung upside down.
And hung upside down. So a very bad day for Benny and his girlfriend. Similarly bad day. Pretty much. Well, actually,
shot the sheriff.
But it didn't shoot the deputy.
Well, on the same day, Adolf Hitler married Eva Braun. I suppose that would be considered a good move, except the next day that they both committed suicide. So bad day for leaders in that sense.
A bad honeymoon.
In 1969, Charles de Gaulle resigned as president of France. In 1974. Now, we should all be aware of this because we've got recordings and things going on. But in 1974, then President Nixon announced he was releasing edited transcripts of the secretly made White House tape recordings.
Well, I'm not a crook.
Then there we go.
I earned everything I've got.
There he did. And he most certainly did earn everything he got. But this might have been, he probably woke up.
I've been waiting for that.
It's been in a button bar for quite a while.
There we go. Well, I would hope we would have something about our good friend and now the very popular the President William Clinton. On this day in 1996, he gave a 4.5-hour videotape testimony as a defense witness in the criminal trial of his former Whitewater business partners. And this was not, of course, the Monica Lewinsky transcripts, but this was it certainly did not work out well for him. But two other events, and these are historical events that Mr. Clinton probably should have availed himself of. In 1813, a gentleman named J.F. Hummel patented something quite important for a lot of folks in the world: rubber.
Really?
So Mr. Clinton perhaps should have looked at history book on this day.
Somebody rolled the first Cohiba.
No, that didn't.
Charge!
We will remember that, Nick, coming down the pike. But also on this day, and this is amazingly 100 years afterwards, exactly 100 years afterwards, in 1913, a gentleman named Gideon Sunback patented. And again, this is something Mr. Clinton certainly should have spent a little more time musing about. Mr. Sunback patented the all-purpose zipper.
Really?
So there we go. On this day in history, lots of exciting things happened.
What do I got for zipper?
He was, well, he was latter 20th century. He was into Velcro.
well, one never knows. One never really knows. But
I thought you were going to talk about that fortune-telling soothsayer rock and roller whose song from the '60s became really famous during the Clinton. Mitch Ryder with "Devil with the Blue Dress On."
Oh yeah.
Well, we'll do that on his birthday. Or a day that's significant. I'm trying to keep this historic. We do want to bring knowledge to the folks that hate me up there in the White Lake area.
It was "Don't Stop Believing" for the campaign.
Well, there you go.
That was a great song.
Yeah.
Until it wasn't. Okay, let's get back to things that are important to Muskegon, and they're kind of some interesting events have happened because a big day if you are interested in becoming an elected political official in our county is May 15th, which is a couple weeks from now. And now we're starting to see the various candidates are fleshing out the field. And just some interesting observations, I thought. We do have Holly Hughes, of course, is the current Republican state representative, and she now has a primary.
Really?
The perennial candidate, Max Rieske, is that
Rieske? Yeah.
Rieske? Okay, he has filed to run. Neither Marcia Hovey Wright.
Does he run as a Republican?
And he's filed as a Republican.
Really?
Yes. So there will be a primary there for that particular seat between Holly Hughes and Max Rieske. And there's no explanation as to why he would be doing it, but he's certainly allowed to, and that's what's going to happen there. We don't have anybody running filed yet against Democrat state rep Marcia Hovey Wright, and of course our state senator is not up for re-election for 2 years, so that's not an issue. But we do have a lot of excitement here, and the reason I'm bringing this up is between May 15th, or certainly between now and April or August 7th, which is when the primary will happen. Is the time that you really, if you care about Muskegon County, is the time that you will spend learning about the issues and learning about the candidates, because your voice matters way more in a primary than it does in the general election. And I'm certainly certain that Roger Miller understands that, even though he's dead. But we will be back and talk about more of these issues when we come back.
It's here, the sale that Michigan's been waiting for. It's Benton's Pick Your Payment Spring Sale-a-thon. For 1 week only, pick your vehicle from our giant 20-acre motor mall and then pick your payment. Let's trade keys and put you in a high-mile-per-gallon Chevrolet with payments as low as $99 a month, 0% for 72 months, and rebates up to $6,000. Benton will pay off your current loan or lease regardless of what you owe. Banks on hand for immediate approval. Nobody will pay you more for your trade than Benton, guaranteed. Drive a new 37-mile-per-gallon Chevy Malibu Eco, $109 a month or less. Chevy Cruze, 42-mile-per-gallon, $119 a month. Chevy Extended Cab 4x4 pickups, over 60 in stock. We're blowing them out for $195 a month or less. The most fuel-efficient 4x4 truck on the road today. It's clear why Michigan shops Benton for the bottom-line best deal. Pick your payment only at Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC, both sides of Henry Street, Muskegon. Let's trade keys today.
Wow, this place is so adorable. I can't believe we haven't stopped in sooner.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Betsy, look at these sweaters. 2 for $75, and they look amazing on our girls.
Maybe they would. I'm not sure if it's the right size.
Oh, come on. You know they're perfect. What's wrong?
Suzanne, I have no business being in this store. I should not be shopping. Things are really tight right now.
Tight? Are you and Michael having trouble?
We're behind on our mortgage, and Michael is really worried.
Listen, Bill and I had the same problem a few months ago, and we got some really great counseling, and it was free. I'm going to email you the information as soon as we get home.
Suzanne, you're the best.
If you even think you may be in danger of foreclosure, call the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Certified housing counselors can help you work through your problems, and the service is free. Call the NFCC at 866-687-6322 or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. That's mortgagehelpnow.org. This has been a public service from the NFCC.
90 is the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
Every pocket of your clothes, folks, and even Roger Miller doesn't like it, and he's not even around to dislike it. But watch out. They're looking for your pockets. They're going through your clothes, and they do want to. They want to take a little of your money and do good things with it. If you're interested in talking about what's going on in Muskegon County, give us a call, 231-830-3109. I was talking before the break about the primary coming up, and again, your vote is about 10 times the power of the vote in the general election. So that if you, in fact, really care about making some significant change, the primary is the time to do it. And what's really neat about this coming election, the primary, which is going to be in August, but the last day for folks to file is in about 2 weeks on May 15th. We have primaries for the county prosecutor. We have primaries for the county sheriff. We do not have a primary for the county clerk or the county. I'm sorry. We do have a primary for the county clerk. No, we don't. I'm sorry. We have a challenger, which we haven't had for a while. But we don't have a primary for the county treasurer, the register of deeds, or the county drain commissioner yet. But the interesting thing that
this is Nancy Waters' first term, isn't it?
Correct.
So she beat Karen Bowie in the last
not in a primary though.
No, but in a general.
Yes,
right.
Yeah,
okay.
But you're right though. There was an election.
County clerk's usually a contested race.
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, I think you're right on that. The county commissioners though, lots of challenging and a few primary races. The only commissioners at this point that don't have challengers either in the primary or in the general election are Rilstein Wilkins and Bob Skolnick, who's my county commissioner. And interestingly, Charles Nash is running for a seat on what will be District 6 that is currently held by Anthony Longmire. And Anthony Longmire has not yet filed, so I don't know if this is going to be a lay-down winner for Charles Nash, who's a past county commissioner and candidate. Came very close to winning a state rep seat in the primary that ultimately was won by Marcia Hovey Wright. So lots of interesting battles going on here. I would hope that the Chronicle and maybe the community college would both decide that they're going to get involved and start pushing for a primary debate, because we have enough of these folks that are interested in the debate, and they haven't done this in the past. It'd be an opportunity again to get the citizens involved at a time when they really do have enormous power of their vote. A couple of other things going on. The LST Museum opened yesterday, Saturday.
Seventh season.
Yes. And you know what I found interestingly is that it is more visitors. It has more visitors than actually the submarine or the Submarine Museum. And
and I think there's a good reason for that. I mean, Submarine has the overnight program. Mm-hmm. And they have a tremendous amount. They literally booked out like 3 years for every weekend, almost throughout the entire year. And so they have to close earlier on Friday and Saturday night because Saturday they've got the troops coming in, and so they kind of limit themselves on the amount of time people can tour the submarine because of the Boy Scout overnight program.
Okay, so there's a logical reason, but it's great. I would have thought that the submarine would have been the big draw. Here we have two phenomenally, wonderfully historic.
That could be because of the location also. I mean,
could be.
Actually, with the Power Tour coming to Muskegon the first weekend in June, that was a lot of comments that people toured the LST last year because they were in downtown Muskegon. It was right there. You could walk over, park their cars, and they walked over to the LST. And so, I mean, they're ramping up for the Power Tour also this year and making sure that they got extra hours on Sunday that they're going to be open. And
well, you know, I'd like to give a little shout out to Sand Products, the people who own the West Michigan Dock and Dock and Market, where the LST is floating there, moored up. Right. And, you know, this ship initially was owned by Sand Products, and I know they were very heavily involved in
Highway 16.
Highway 16, yes. And they were involved in this transformation. And while the ship does pay a certain amount of a fee to the Sand Products folks, if you look at the contribution list, Sand Products people actually donate more to the LST Museum than they get back in. And I think that's something that's forgotten. We have so many of these wonderful companies in our community who make significant donations at all levels. And certainly, John, someone like yourself, where you've donated, you know, thousands and thousands of hours over the years. And yes, there are, you know, you get an attaboy on occasion, and the companies get an attaboy. But I'd like to continue to reminding people that successful profit-making corporations are very, very and sometimes silently involved in the success of our community. And a shout out to Sand Products for their wonderful help over the years, and I'm sure it's going to continue.
That'd be an interesting guest for either my show or your show too, is have Max McKee come on.
Well, I'm sure Max would love it.
I think he would. Yeah,
and really, you know, they do an awful lot for this community, and for whatever reason, their relations with the Chronicle haven't been very good. So a lot of people are not aware.
And their relationship with the city officials have been somewhat contentious at times over the years, going back to the Clipper era.
You bet.
I mean, it's it would be interesting to get Max's take on that.
It would be nice to get the other side of the story, because we have been pretty much
getting... there is another side of the story.
And there is another
I've
side.
had discussions with Max over the years and on the other side of the story that the Chronicle doesn't report on. So
okay, well, that's a great idea. As a matter of fact, I'll make a call to Max next week. One thing that came up, and we've got the Commissioner Jagger coming in shortly, but Norton Shores had, to me, a very interesting open public meeting, one of their annual or one of their 2 monthly city council meetings, and they openly and publicly had a discussion about the funding of the city's pension, which are very troubling. Only 60% funded. They are very seriously underfunded at the Norton Shores level, but at least they made a determination. Number one, to start to making their number one priority was to get this thing funded back the way it is supposed to be, but also that they had the conversation in public. And that's something that we're not seeing whatsoever at the county level, and you may not be seeing that at your city and township levels either. And this is critical because this is the silent city killer, a silent township killer, where you're not seeing these huge amounts of promises that are building up, and at some point will have to be attended to. And we just saw, actually, in the first pension, a municipal pension bankruptcy. I forget which one of the islands it is, but the Marianas Islands, or anyway, it's a United States protectorate. They just announced the bankruptcy of their pension.
Really?
So in other words, all of the public employees who are dependent upon that, now, poof, we'll find out what's going to ultimately happen, but a shout-out and kudos to Norton Shores for talking about a very tough subject.
We're doing some neat things in Norton Shores. I mean, we're going to win some architectural awards for the snowplow garage that they're building.
Well, there's some things that are maybe not quite so good. But we've got Mr. Miller telling us we got to come back after the break.
Don't you love me sometime?
Dave Ramsey here. It's time to tighten up that budget. We're proud to partner with our amazing friends at Macatawa Bank because they care about helping you accomplish your total money makeover. Stop in any one of their 26 West Michigan branches where you can sit down with a Macatawa representative and review your budget. Afterwards, they'll give you a copy of my Total Money Makeover book free and a chance to win 2 tickets to our live event on May 5th. Macatawa Bank. Talk about a bank that cares about your financial well-being.
In the streets below, traffic had stopped. Pedestrians were lying on sidewalks and curled up in doorways. There was no sign of violence, no wrecks, nothing like that. It was as if the people in New York had simply decided to stop whatever they were doing and pass out. Ice coated my stomach. The invasion has started. To find out what happens next, read Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library. And visit read.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
America had just gone to war when Felipe Adams volunteered.
I took a bullet to the side and left me paralyzed.
For Armando de la Rosa, the Navy was a chance to serve and see the world.
I got medically discharged in 2001.
For injured veterans like Felipe Adams, there are veterans like Armando de la Rosa ready to help.
Our training is to better the veteran.
Paralyzed Veterans of America, changing lives, building futures. Visit PVA.org.
Thanks, honey.
You're welcome.
My husband needed a CT scan to check his heart. Turns out he's fine, but talk of radiation in the news made me a little concerned. So I asked our doctor, how will this exam improve his care? Are there alternative tests that don't use radiation? And is the facility accredited for quality and safety? Our doctor told me if you need a scan, the benefits outweigh any risk.
If you're concerned about radiation, ask your doctor and get the facts at imagewisely.org.
This is Mike McCready, Pearl Jam's lead guitarist. Join me and help transform the lives of the 1.4 million Americans living with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Sign up today for one of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation's Take Steps walks at cctakesteps.org.
America had just gone to war when Felipe Adams volunteered.
I knew what I was signing up for. I knew the consequences. I took a bullet to the side and left me paralyzed.
For Armando de la Rosa, the Navy was a chance to serve and see the world.
I got medically discharged in 2001.
Armando and Felipe were brought together by a unique organization that serves our paralyzed veterans.
If there was no PVA, it'd be a lot of confusion. Our training is to better the veteran. We help out with the auto grant, the special housing adaptation grant, education, prosthetics. Our main focus is spinal cord injury and disease, but we see anybody.
First thing he had asked me before he even asked my name was I being taken care of as a veteran? And I thought that was pretty good.
Changing lives, building futures. That's Paralyzed Veterans of America. To learn more, visit PVA.org.
It's your car. You take it to people you trust. They're your children. You want to keep them safe.
Hey kids, shut your traps!
It's your health. You want a doctor with experience.
Hey Joan, I'm Skip, and I'll be your doctor today.
I'm fine. Thanks.
It's your finances. You want to go to the experts.
It's quick and easy. Cut your payments by 50.
Go to people with experience, real people you can trust.
We've got to find a way to get out from under this debt.
We can help.
The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a nonprofit organization that has been helping people for 60 years. Our certified counselors can help you eliminate your debt and teach you ways to stay out of debt. Speak with a counselor today at 800-388-2227. Or visit debtadvice.org. National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Real solutions for real people. This is a public service campaign for the NFCC.
The Exquisite Corpse. A very unusual and completely amazing story pieced together out of so many parts that it is not possible to describe them all here, so go ahead and just start reading. The full moon lights the silver rails winding around dark mountains and over steep gorges of jagged rock and one freezing cold rushing black mountain river. I wish there was enough time to describe all of the funny twists and turns, especially the elephant clown party, that led up to now, but there isn't enough time because there is a ticking clock, and the two passengers we care most about don't know anything about it. In a sleeping berth in the third car from the end of the train are two children, 11-year-old twins who have just run away from the circus. The girl's name is Nancy, the boy's name is Joe. They have no idea that those are not their true names, though they will figure it out soon enough. To see what happens next, visit read.gov to read The Exquisite Corpse, a riveting adventure pieced together by John Sheska, Shannon Hale, Daniel Handler, and other popular authors. Explore new worlds. Read. This exciting message is brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum.
In
Good morning again. Good morning again, Muskegon. This is Eye on Muskegon. I'm Jim Riley. I'm here with Oscar Osbo, John Van Wyck, and the bravest of them all, county commissioners, Alan Jagger. Welcome again. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Alan.
Good morning.
Thank you for showing up here. We've got lots and lots of exciting things happening in this just coming up week.
Exciting.
Well,
Anyway.
you know, we talked about before the break. We talked about the fact that there's a lot of interest in folks running for local offices, and I just wanted to add that it's not just the county-wide offices and the county commission offices. Many school boards and townships, and I think even some of the cities will have elections also in the villages. So this is an opportunity to either get ready to sign up to run for office, get involved with somebody's campaign, or at the very least start doing your homework so you know who to vote for.
And I've got a major kudos for Commissioner Jagger. You know, we talk about people that are involved with politics, but also involved in the community. We've got the Hot Rod Power Tour coming up, coming to Muskegon, and Commissioner Jagger has owned some property in downtown Muskegon, and basically has let us use that property to enhance the festival, everything else. He could say, and you might want to do this now, he could have blocked it off and charged $5 for parking in there.
Well, I had to actually take it back from the church that's next door because they used the property for to make money off of. So
right.
I have to go ask them if I can have my property back to give it to the power tour. So,
and we really appreciate that, because I mean, it really, without those kind of contributions to this thing, it probably might have been financially impossible to do had we had to rent property all over the downtown area of Muskegon. But between you and the Community Foundation for Muskegon and a few other property owners in the downtown area, which I'll be talking about on my show, but I mean you've gotten involved in it. You stepped up where you could do that, and we really appreciate that. It's contributing to an event in Muskegon that's going to bring millions of dollars into this community. So
this power tour is a fantastic thing. This is one of the best things we can do, and we have to, as a county, promote this thing.
Oh, absolutely, and the county's help on this thing has been incredible since day one.
Well, I give kudos to both of you, because John, you are the chairman of this entire event, and I was looking at the enormous paycheck that you get every week from from it, which turns out to be zero.
It's incredible. I'm trying to figure out how I can write off the expenses. But,
Well, I just thank you for your extraordinarily hard work, and I see you, of course, during the week, and I know how busy you are on that. And Alan, thank you. You're foregoing a lot of money. You may not be writing a check and getting all the big, here's a wonderful guy for writing us a large check.
Right.
But in fact, you are foregoing a significant amount of money,
using his resources
and
to promote,
another one of those quiet businessmen, and you are a private businessman in our county. Another one of those privately given, real people who make our county move, and thank you again. So enough of that.
Yeah, but
now we're going to come after you, guys.
Really positive things the county has done, and another one is you guys going out and finding Bob Lucan to take Jill Emery's place at the Convention Visitors Bureau. I was I thought Jill would not be able to be replaced, because Jill was an incredible person at that thing. Obviously, I had an opportunity to go work for Lake Express, and you guys went out and found Bob Lucan. And it was an exhausting process in trying to find that and define what his job was going to be. He is an incredible guy, and I tell you, we'll do this community proud. And again, you've added people like that. And it's only been since you've been on there that this happened too. Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure your input was strong.
Well, actually, maybe not as good as you think, because I actually voted no for him to come here, and there was a reason for it. We went from a $50,000 job to a $90,000 job,
right,
and that was the reason. But I tell you, he really probably is worth the money. He has done so much work for downtown Muskegon.
Yeah, but
and the whole county. I mean, he goes everywhere. He's been out to Boy Scout camp. He's been everywhere. Let
me just jump in on this, guys.
The snow cone machine.
I want to. Well, he may have found the snow cone machine, and I'm all for all the kumbaya and all here. But I think it's important to understand that the fact that somebody's a nice guy, good guy, does their job, that's expected. Okay, what Alan Jagger did, he was, and you may very well have been the only no vote. He said, nice guy, good guy, fabulous guy, great catch. He said, wait a minute, what's this going to cost?
Right.
Because it does matter. Because there's a range, let's say, between we're going to pay him $1 a week and we're going to pay him $1 million. And at some point in that range, we want to get the best person for the money.
Right.
The only person who sat on our county board who ask that question.
Challenge the dollars.
Because no matter how good anyone, and I'll just use Lukens as an example, but no matter how good a job he does, if he's getting paid too much, then that's a problem. And we need people like Alan who sits alone essentially now asking those questions. And I'm a little tired of hearing about how great, cool ideas are with no correlating discussion about what they're going to cost. For instance, a Bentley would be a lovely car to have.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
And if you didn't have any discussion whatsoever about the cost of a Bentley, then we'd all be going out and buying them. And that's the way the county and too many of our communities are running their spending decisions. They talk about how great it would be with no discussion about what it's going to cost the community over time.
That always brings up an accountability factor that for some reason, and it's true with federal and local officials, the accountability isn't there long term.
We've had an awful lot of 10-year county commissioners that are looking to re-up for another 2.
But what are the repercussions once they leave office? There isn't any.
Well, we live here for a long time. All of us have lived here for decades. Everyone in this room has lived here for decades. And you're right. The ultimate long-term repercussions, and that's why I mentioned the fact that Norton Shores at least is taking time to address a serious problem. And as the Muskegon County has yet to do that. But we do have 2 enormously important issues going on and enormously expensive issues coming up this week. And one, of course, is the jail, where there's going to be a tour of the jail by the, I guess the sheriff is going to be doing this and bringing the 11 newly nominated Citizens Review Committee to go through there. And
how political was that?
Well, it's going to be political. That's okay. That makes sense. But again, it's one thing to focus and have almost the entire argument being, do we need a jail or not, and absolutely have no public discussion of how big a jail should it be, how should it be paid for, how much to spend. And Commissioner, maybe you can address that, since that's why you're here, buddy.
Well, the person I chose was very much about whether rehabilitation projects and things like that were more important. Money, big issue. Whether we go after a millage or we do it without a millage, which would be totally against me.
Can you explain why there hasn't been a open and legal discussion? Because certainly it's illegal for the county board to have discussions about the cost and how they're going to raise the money in private, at least if there's a quorum. So why has there not been any kind of public discussion about this?
Maybe that's why they only put 4 or 5 people on that one board. Maybe they are having discussion. I have no idea.
That's interesting.
Realistically, the main board only has 4 of them on it, maybe 5.
As long as you don't have a quorum.
Yeah, as long as they don't have a quorum. But I think all what's being discussed, I don't know that they want to have but maybe they're waiting for the surveys and to find out exactly what it's going to be, because right now maybe they really don't know.
But what about citizen input from that? Because there, as you just suggested, a way to pay for the jail would be, of course, to have a millage where everybody would, all the property tax owners would pay. But there's some other ways.
Well, they could just bond
it. The Citizen Advisory Committee, how are people nominated for it? Each one of you guys have a nominee that you had? Well, each one of the county commissioners?
Yeah, they just anybody could fill out a form, and that's what, I had 4 in my area, and I actually read out a 9-question, what I thought was important, like millage or, will you be safer with more people in jail, whatever, and then I sent it to all 4 of them and had them answer it.
Okay.
And then I chose what I would think would be closest to me.
Right. Okay.
And then you communicated to those who...
But each county commissioner had one pick?
A couple of them didn't have anybody turn in names, and I I don't know which ones it is now. I know Luke Collins didn't ever have anybody, but I might have had the most.
Now, when that advisory committee, they've officially been adopted now, or not?
Yes, they were appointed last week.
They're appointed and approved by the county board.
Yep.
Obviously, they're subject to the Open Meetings Act.
Yes, I would think so.
Well, they are. We went through this with the Heights Review Team.
Yeah,
appointed by the governor to serve on the Heights Review Team. It was delayed for a month because of a challenge over in Highland Park of that appointed committee by the governor that had to meet in public. And we did. The time I'm on the Heights Review Team, we had to meet in public, had to post the notices, we had to live by the letter of the law of Open Meetings Act. So I would think that this committee falls under the same scrutiny.
Yeah,
I would think also, but in a county that's got obviously some legal problems, understanding what the Open Meetings Act is and responding to, in this case, there is an open lawsuit that has been filed against the county. Be interesting to see if their behavior is changed on this.
I think that they're subject to the Open Meetings Act.
Well, I hope that they don't become just a PR thing, and that they actually have input into this. This would be important to me, because otherwise they're just going to send them out and say, "Oh, the jail's really bad, and you got to have a new jail." That's not an answer.
Right.
I mean, I really want them to have a say, but I think the commissioners will want them to have a say, because it takes the pressure off our back.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
We're covering our own butts. Is what we're doing here, I think.
Well, and that makes sense to me. You want to bring the public in. I have absolutely no problem with those people on any boards that are appointed that are supportive of whatever the county's going to do.
I couldn't understand a number of years ago. I served for 21 years on the Muskegon County Planning Commission when we had a planning commission, and for the last I think 11 years I was chairman of that body, and it was a 3-year appointment, and the county board used to use us a lot for exactly that. When something was pretty contentious, and when it had to do with public facilities and those kind of things, Heritage Landing comes to mind. I mean, they pretty much gave that over to the planning commission to give them recommendations back on a regular basis.
Right.
And then that got dissolved for some reason. I still don't know why the planning commission got dissolved, but we were all public appointees. There were 2 county board members on that planning commission, a body of 13 people, and we met monthly, but again, took the pressure off of us. And I don't know why the county board decided to dissolve that. Didn't cost them anything.
And that happened, about 10 years ago or so?
Yeah, about 10 years ago.
Well, one of the issues to me that's important about the Citizens Committee, and there's another blue ribbon-y type committee that involves some judges and some other folks on it, but is that if you're interested in buying a car, for instance, you're going to look at the various great cars, and you might say, well, geez, Ferrari gets good ratings, and Bentley and Rolls-Royce get great ratings, and Lexuses look really good, too. But you're also going to factor in the cost.
Sure.
And what I'm concerned here, because the number one issue, as voted by not just the county commissioners, but by the department heads, was essentially fixing the jail problem, is that they have lots of discussion about the need for a jail, lots of discussion about the type of jail they're going to have. What's been in the newspaper of late has been essentially doubling the size of the jail from 300 to 600, but nothing about what are the various options going to cost. And I'm getting a sense and a fear that they may settle on what they've already, I think, mentally settled on, X, whatever it may be, and then they're not going to give us other alternatives. I do know this as a fact. When they initially hired, or not initially, this would have been about the 5th or 6th or perhaps 7th a consultant that the county took valuable tax dollars to pay for in terms of looking at the jail, they very specifically told the consultant firm, do not look at the option of privatization. In other words, we can take care of our jail, of our prisoners in any number of ways that don't involve either fixing up the old jail or building a new jail. There are other options. Now, I don't know if they're good options or not, but if you very specifically say, don't look into that, that makes me feel like, well, why?
Well, obviously, the unionization and they don't want it going into private hands. But
so they're not as interested if what you say is correct. They're not as interested in really doing what's best for the county.
Yeah.
They're doing what's best for a particular
put up some
special
interest.
Well, I want to be a consultant. That's all I know.
Well, you laugh at this, but we actually, again, when the County Planning Commission years ago, we looked at a Wasapee Scout Reservation because it was only used during the summertime, and they were actually at that point in time, 10, 15 years ago, we're only using about half of that camp up there because the participation Boy Scouts had gone down in the Chicago area, and they mothballed a couple of the camps up there. And we actually went up there, toured up there to saying, is this feasible for using as a prisoner camp?
Right.
And there's really great buildings up there.
Was it feasible at that time?
We thought it was.
Okay.
The county board didn't think it was. They didn't think it was such a good idea. But we've got a tremendous amount of those camps around.
But that's thinking out of the box.
Jim Schlichting would go to his grave before that happened.
Well, yeah, but small area. But I mean, not just there. I mean, there's some on Blue Lake, and other than the Wasapee Scout Reservation, that there Is that a possibility of looking at doing something like that? I mean, we do have those kinds of areas, and I guess it comes right down to that age-old question: well, what's wrong with the correctional facility?
Well, Alan, you sat through the presentation by this real estate professional in terms of locations, and then John just asked the question about what about the current prison. What can extrapolate a little bit on that?
Actually, I haven't been through a presentation by anybody on where they're going to go. We basically have had none of that. The other board, the board that has the 4 commissioners, are what's going through all that. The prison we're not going to get because Graham Holmes thought we ought to sell that prison. Snyder thinks we shouldn't sell that prison. So
okay, so the option of us saying, hey, look, we think it's a good idea to fix up the prison and make that the new jail, that isn't even an option because the people who own it, which is essentially the governor, at least he has the say, has said no, that's not going to happen. Is that the way you understand it?
Yeah, that's exactly the way I understand it. And now, one thing that's really starting to bother me now is the jails we have, they're talking about maybe they could turn that into offices. Well, the thing is, if it's good enough to turn into offices, it certainly is good enough to have our jail prisoners in. So I would hope that that's not really true.
Well, if they turn it into offices, they're going to have to hire more people to occupy those offices.
Have central air. Central air.
I'm sitting here with my mouth open. I never heard that.
That's what just something I heard the other day.
That's a pretty big building. There'd be a lot of offices in there. What are you going to move in there?
Well, how would you even do it? I couldn't.
Well, if they can do it to something like the Amazon, I mean, why can't they do it to make the nice plush apartments and stuff there right now? And I mean, why can't they do it to the whole
jail?
jail?
It could be done, but the cost would be. So we're going to build a jail and then build essentially a new office building?
Well, yeah, I was kind of amazed too. And the Amazon, I did the demo on all the inside of the Amazon, and that's a whole lot different than a building with all concrete poured on the inside of it. Yeah. That's 2 different stories. I don't even know how you could do it, actually, to tell you the truth. So,
but what discussion though? But that's now that you bring it up. What discussion has there been about what will happen if we do move all these prisoners out?
But the thing is, over the last 25 years or so, the county's got some pretty good assets when it comes to buildings. At the Hallman Center, you get the old Baker College campus, the new Matt's building. The Road Commission's got a beautiful building. What else would they put in there? They just got redone doing the Hall of Justice, and I don't know what other departments got bad
we can
facilities.
Always use more help. There's got to be something else.
Well, it's got to be all those inspectors Jim and I were talking about last week.
There you go.
All right,
inspectors.
Don't get me into it.
Well, we got a couple of other things because next week there's also going to be a reenactment in Muskegon. So all of you folks who are interested in history, we're going to have a reenactment. It'll be put on for free. We'll talk about that when we come back in just a couple minutes.
Debt is dumb. Dave Ramsey tells you why.
There's now a genetic link to credit card debt. No kidding. I swear. Possessing a gene linked with impulsive and addictive behavior makes people up to 16% more likely to have credit card debt, researchers from the London School of Economics and the University of California have discovered. All these years I've been fighting against credit card debt, and I thought it was a behavior problem. Turns out it's a genetic predisposition.
Catch Dave weekday afternoons from 2 till 5 on News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
I can solve difficult problems for a Fortune 500 company.
I can run a successful business.
I can put my military experience to work for your company.
I can manage your home improvements.
I can publicize a message.
I can teach your children.
But I can't put my skills to work for your organization
if I'm not given the opportunity.
Nearly 50 million Americans have disabilities. Capitalize on their talents with employment practices that benefit everyone. Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
I knew I was stuck at this kid's house for the night, but those guys snuck up on me to try and pull the hand in a bowl of warm water trick. Well, that was enough for me. I went downstairs to sleep in the basement, even though it was pitch black. I left my sleeping bag upstairs, and that was a mistake, because it was freezing. I think it was probably the longest night of my life. To read more about the sleepover, check out Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw by Jeff Kenny. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library, and visit read.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
News Talk 1090 is the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes.
And we are back at Eye on Muskegon, Muskegon's #1 rated political talk show. And we are talking about politics because, folks, that's what really matters. Even though a lot of people don't like to talk about politics, that's how your money is spent. That's how your services are ultimately decided. And right now there's a big discussion going on, not publicly all that much, and we're trying to make it a little more public, about should Muskegon County spend, I've heard, $35 million or so to build a new jail, and what are the other options, and perhaps those numbers are even going to go higher. But what really I'd like to see would be some real discussions about what the choices are going to cost us, because you cannot be looking for a car and not look at the prices of the car. You can't be going out to a restaurant, and if any of you have ever done this, it's happened to me on a rare occasion. You walk into a restaurant where they don't have the prices on the menu. Well, that kind of, unless you're on somebody else's, unless you're, let's say, a GSA employee or a Secret Service employee.
You work for Big Oil.
Or you work for Big Oil. With somebody else paying the bill.
Or you're a consultant.
Or if you're a consultant. Well, and unfortunately, our county commissioners seem to think that makes sense, that they can go look on the menu, their little menu of jail choices, and not have any prices on that menu, and just comfortably then settle on it, and then get their army of enablers, sometimes at the Chronicle, sometimes not, but also the enablers that I'm sure they hope to get out of some of these citizens committees. We're not an enabler. We would like to get the information, and it may very well be that we will totally support whatever their decision is. But when you do things in the dark, as we're finding out, it does get a little scary, and I'd like to change the subject just a tad here, is because we've got this wonderful reenactment coming up here in Muskegon County. And I'm a big history guy, and I've seen some Civil War reenactments, and I've probably seen the movie Gettysburg, all 4 hours of it, maybe 10 times, and of course all these reenactors on both sides. And I've seen a reenactment of the battle of the Plains of Abraham, which ended the Revolutionary War up in Canada. I think it was a Revolutionary War. No, it ended the French and Indian War.
French and Indian
War, which where the British won. Wonderful. Everyone's all dressed up in costumes and all. Well,
they could put you on a pole too with that shirt of yours.
They could. Well, not up in Canada. Actually, it's funny because the Canadians are, once you get talking about that war, which they don't call the French and Indian War. They've got another name. You ask anybody in Canada, what? Yeah. Tell me about the French and Indian War. That's not what they call it. Exactly. But they talk with emotion of the 3 times that the United States has invaded Canada. We may not be aware of it. They most certainly are. And what we have here is perhaps the invasion of citizens coming up on Thursday in Muskegon County, as the county commissioners have decided as a group that they're going to have what they call a reenactment of a meeting that was secret. Notwithstanding County Commissioner John Snyder saying it wasn't secret, it was most certainly secret. The county's been sued over its secretness, and they are now going to reenact that closed meeting to the public. Alan, are you dressing up? Are people going to be wearing English wigs?
They probably have to wear the same clothes that they wore to the
meeting. We have to wear the same clothes.
That's what I've been thinking all the time. We haven't come up with what I was wearing that day, and we are really trying to figure that one out.
And yet, had I been there, I videotaped those meetings, and I could have helped out.
I'm thinking like you should. Well, maybe I can just go by the earlier one. I probably didn't change before the closed session. So
there we go.
Maybe there is a way I can get the same clothes back on. So
well, we do have the video. You're right. We do have the video of the meeting prior to this closed session. Well, the term reenactment I find just as strange.
So what are you saying? Call Riley if you want to find out what you were wearing.
If you're interested,
otherwise you have to go naked. I don't think I want to see
one of the fashion shows that are on the
turn the cameras off.
Say yes to the dress. Well, that's true. I guess I do have control over that. Although I believe the meeting is on YouTube.
Have you got any requests for that yet? So we can get us all dressed the same. Or no requests for that.
I like the English wigs and the Revolutionary War garb.
I did think about this, but I don't know if I ought to go push it that far.
Okay, well, look, and we're joking about this because we really don't know. The only thing that's been released has been the fact that the county board chairman, Ken Mahoney, has said that there's going to be a reenactment. explain this to the rest of us, because I haven't got a clue what's going to go on.
Well, we're going to put it back out there of what it was. Well, during the meeting, they said...
What it was, you mean this closed meeting?
Yeah, this closed meeting. And at the thing, I was assured the auditor would be there. Well, by the time the end of the day, we were going to do exactly, basically, of what we did in there. Well, there is no real formal minutes. They're just rough, and there is no taping. So I wouldn't even know what questions to ask. I can't remember what I asked, and I know there was 4 or 5 other questions, so that was going to become a very big problem. But thank God for the Chronicle on Thursday. I mean, by Friday, I sent her a letter giving me an outline of exactly what questions I could ask, and by Friday afternoon, I got a response of about anything you want to do.
Now, wait a sec. You mean you went to the Chronicle's editorial staff and said, "Hey, can you give me some questions or what?"
So this is a reenactment without a script, basically.
Yeah, and I think the Chronicle's paper Thursday was enough to say, what are you guys doing behind closed doors, and let's get this figured out. And if you read the Chronicle paper Thursday when it came out, I didn't go to them or anything like that. They did this on their own.
Oh, okay.
So they basically decided that. And I think the heat is on now, so I don't think there's a choice anymore.
But it's still, they had this secret meeting, which they call a closed session. And they came out of the closed session and then agreed to vote to make this loan, which there's a lot of questions about the fact that the county had made a loan to someone who can in fact pay it back. But they voted, took 1 minute, by the way. We timed it from the time they came out of the meeting to the vote, which was less than 1 minute. But they're going to do this reenactment, which I'm assuming is supposed to be for the benefit of the citizens?
Yes, I would hope so. I mean,
okay.
Maybe even for my benefit. I mean, I need to know what I'm voting on. I would have known the day of that when it went to full board, which would be, we only had 24 hours to figure out what our questions even would be. There was no way possible I can get anything in that amount of time. So I voted no that day.
Well, you specifically asked the question.
And I tried to stop it. I got it through to where we can at least have a discussion on stopping it. And they were so insistent that it was going to kill our credit rating that we had to do it. So it was a 10-1 vote when it finally came down.
Well, I was there, and let me just extrapolate a bit on what you mean when say you tried to stop it. What you tried to do was you tried to stop the vote because you didn't feel comfortable that you knew enough about what was going on in order to make a vote, because there was no time. They just dropped this on you, and there were very few questions that were asked in the closed session, although I guess we're going to find out how many questions were asked during the closed session.
If you can't remember, how are they going to remember what they, and are they going to steer it their own way to make it sound? I mean, I don't.
No, the reenactment. I think now I've been working on it for 2 days of just questions. I'm narrowing it down now, and but I'm going to actually ask under it instead of doing it like they're doing it. I even the day after we made that vote, I went to our administrator and I said, "Look, Blue Lake last night had to write off $80,000. The same day, actually, we did what we did," and I said. They actually explained why they were writing off the $80,000 and, how they were going to do it and everything else. It was a 5-minute presentation. I mean, if we had just done that, I'm more than happy. I understand that we're probably going to do this. We can't leave $2.5 million out there floating, so, okay, I'll do it. But let's put it out there on the table why we're doing it. So that was the whole point behind it.
And how it's going to be accomplished.
Well,
that's what's going to happen. I really want this to be... So the public understands. Whether we have to do it or not is really beside the point. We have to. The public has to know why we're doing it, and they have to know: is this a long-term thing? We're going to be putting out this money every year, or is it going to stop, or how we're going to do it? And I think that's my question.
Well, it was clear too, at least from your standpoint, and I was there. I did take the video of it, and it is on EyeOnMuskegon.com if you want to see those. But it was clear that many, if not most, of the county commissioners felt the same way you did, in the sense that they did not understand what they were voting on. And one of the commissioners very specifically said, a la Nancy Pelosi, she said, well, I'm going to vote for this because after the vote, then we'll understand what happened. Now, you know what gets me on this is that there was that assumption on the behalf of at least one of the county commissioners. There was sort of the assumption on my behalf that at least, okay, they forced this thing through, but it makes perfect sense. We're going to explain it to the public. Well, they most specifically did not do that. But did they ever, after it was forced through, after this promise that this loan was made to Brookhaven, and the Brookhaven then somehow, which gets about a $500,000 subsidy every year, is somehow going to be able to pay it back, did they at least explain it to you and the rest of the county commissioners so that you understood what you voted on after the fact?
No, the lawsuit's the only thing that's made it go any further. We would have never heard another thing from any of it. You know? Okay. Can I even talk about how I got involved, why I left the meeting?
Absolutely.
Well, here's what happened. I heard that there was a lawsuit being filed, and by what attorney. I actually went to that attorney. No one come to me or anything else about all of it. And I said I felt that we had violated the law. I didn't know for positive because I'm a truck driver.
Can I just add one clarification? The lawsuit was filed by me. All right, Jim Riley.
Yeah,
and the attorney who prepared the lawsuit, well, was David Wells. So he prepared it. He didn't file the lawsuit.
Okay.
And that's an important thing.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Anyway, I went to David Wells and I said, look, can I write a letter stating I feel like we violated the law, but, I'd like it confirmed by somebody. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I'm not nobody, And so he said, Alan, sure, we'll get it so we can get this done. So we got the letter, and I turned it in. So when I went to the meeting, and the reason I left the meeting was you cannot be on two sides of a coin. I could have sat in there and listened to why we were doing a lawsuit, but how can you be on the other side of the coin actually trying to help the guy with the lawsuit? So you can't be on both sides. So I asked the clerk, would you please find out what the lawsuit was about? Because at that time I didn't know why we were even going back into closed session again. She went and talked to Commissioner Mahoney and found out it was about Jim's suit. So then I proceeded to say, well, don't hand out any paperwork, don't do anything, absolutely nothing, until we get into closed session, and I'll take care of it from there, and then you guys can do whatever you want. And Ted Williams, who's our attorney, shook his head, kind of agreed with that idea. And so when we went into closed session, I waited for everyone to leave the room, and I asked to be excused. There was nothing. They didn't tell me to get out of there, or but this was something I had to do because I just don't want to be on two sides of the coin. I'll play it one side or the other.
Okay, so you're not privy to what happened in this other closed session, which I don't think is a big issue, because now they're going to do this reenactment, which apparently was what they decided to do in the closed session.
That is a legal justification for going into a closed session.
That's right.
That's my understanding.
Lawsuits, personnel issues.
Sure. Certainly, they have a right to fight the lawsuit.
Oh, sure.
And that's why they should do that without me. I mean, that wasn't a place for me to be.
Well, the interesting thing is that the suit was filed almost a week and a half ago, and there has not been a response.
Well, they have a certain period of time to file a brief.
But one would think that they would respond a little more quickly. I mean, as far as the people who are interested in openness and transparency for this particular board, the county, this is the gift that keeps on giving. The longer this keeps open, the longer they keep stonewalling and not responding, the more we can, make some noise about it. It's not going to go away.
Something you wonder about every year. Every year you got all these people going to run for politics, and they're going to be something. And they all say transparency, big issue. And the thing is, it's not once during the campaign I ever said anything about transparency, because I believe it's by action, not by words. Everybody says they're going to do it. We got 10 members up there who believe that they probably ran out there and said, we're going to have transparency, and here they are not doing what they're saying they were going to do during the elections. I think it's a bad deal.
That's not very transparent.
No. Well, so it's working out real well for you.
Well, Alan, again, you said you're just a truck driver, but you seem personally, from my views, and I attend almost all of the meetings, you seem to be the only one who understands that there's the person, if you will, who ought to be sitting at the table, and that is the citizen and the taxpayer and the business owners. There is a perceived view by a lot of folks, and I'm one of them, that the citizen, the taxpayer, the business owners are really more of an annoyance that they have to go to on occasion and extract money out of, and they'll squawk, and we'll just we'll get away with it. You've asked very simple questions. I know the first meeting of this year, you specifically asked, we need more time to understand, especially some of the more complex items. And there's a little question that when you're going to loan almost $2.5 million to an entity that surely cannot pay it back, that we need to understand that. And truly, we ought to explain the logic of that to the public. You got voted down 10-1. And one of the reasons that I mentioned the fact that we have these contested county commission elections coming up in August is that I think it's important for those of you who are listening to take a look and see how your county commissioners have voted, because what's happened is that almost every one of those 10 on almost every single spending issue and every single new hire have voted together. So the difference between a Republican and a Democrat, if you like kumbaya and group hugging and everybody getting along, you'll love Muskegon County Board, with the exception of the Patriot sitting next to me, Alan Jagger, because these folks, especially those who have been there, and I think we have John Snyder, Bob Skolnick, and Marv Engel have been there 10 years and are all now looking for an additional 2. They've been there for a decade. They voted with their good buddies on the Democrat side almost 100% of the time. That may be...
Okay, yeah, I'll go back. I got a question to ask about Brookhaven when we come back.
Okay, we're going to come back. Maybe. Assuming we're still here. We'll be back in just a few minutes, folks.
Hi, my name's Bob. Hi, Bob. So I see this ad on TV. It says I can reduce my debt by 50%. So I call. They told me to stop paying my bills, stop talking to my creditors. It didn't seem right, but they said they'd take care of everything.
I gave them thousands of dollars, but most of it went to their fees.
Getting out of debt is neither quick nor easy. There are those who will tell you anything just to win your trust.
Sounded perfect. I did everything they told me to do.
They never paid my creditors. They didn't even contact them.
Turns out I'm even more in debt because the fees and the interest on my cards kept piling up.
Bad advice from so-called experts can make your financial situation worse.
And the bank turned me down for a mortgage. And that's when I realized my credit was shot.
I should have gone straight to my creditors to begin with.
There is a better way to get help. Talk to your creditors directly, or to find a nonprofit agency near you, visit debtadvice.org. Debtadvice.org. Real solutions for real people. This has been a public service message.
If you love food and your heart, go grocery shopping with me, Mon, short for mono unsaturated fat.
And me, polyunsaturated.
We're the Better Fat Sisters. Over here in the cooking oil aisle, choose canola, olive, and other vegetable oils. Liquids are better for your heart than solid fats.
You'll also find us in fresh foods like avocados, nuts, and fish.
Before you put any baked goods, packaged, and prepared foods in your cart, read the labels.
Avoid our bad fats brothers, saturated and trans. They love to clog your arteries.
We're heart healthier, but let's face it, we're fats.
We all have the same 9 calories per gram, so watch your portions.
And thanks for shopping with us.
The Better Fat Sisters. Be kinder to your heart. Learn more and get recipes at heart.org/facethefats. Nationally sponsored by Canola Info.
Audio and video offer a unique blend of services with life stories, memorials, documentaries, along with HD commercials and video editing, music video, all with some of the best prices offered and years of experience on top. Also, 00 Audio and Video offer video transfers, 8mm, Super 8, VHS, VHC, slides, all formats transferred to high-quality DVD. 00 Audio and Video, or on the website at oo-video.com, 00 Audio and Video.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum
And here we are back, laughing our way through a wonderful, beautiful Sunday morning. This is Eye on Muskegon. I keep talking, and not enough because I've been told about this. We still do want your phone calls, and we are going to continue to let you have that opportunity. The number 231-830-3109. John had mentioned earlier that he had been someplace up north in the county, and there was a person who didn't think I was the greatest person in the world, in good measure, probably because of what they had heard on the radio. And
we can't repeat it on air.
We'd like to. Well, John didn't repeat it to me. Maybe he was being kind, but we're not adverse to criticism. Today is a day about criticism, and we're not against criticism. And matter of fact, we would like to answer your questions and your criticisms, and even if you want to get wacky, because Oscar's got the little button to turn you off. But for those of you who are angered by this show, those of you that don't like the fact that we are talking about government spending, we are number one in our time slot. We control the information that we just got from Arbitron was that, and this is early too, because I believe the show numbers have gone up quite a bit since then. But we beat LAV, and we are the number one show of AM or FM in our time slot on Sundays. So
there you go.
So those of you who are not happy with the show, hopefully that'll boil you up a little bit. And maybe you can give us a call or just sit there and simmer.
Yeah, and I've got a question that I told you guys I was going to ask. Not a question, but food for thought. I mean, Brookhaven has been a county facility for decades.
Yes.
How does it lose money? It's and only because I know that I saw a thing for a job fair for a new facility that's being built on Whitehall Road, which is an assisted living center, and they're firing it up. I think it's 28 beds or 48 beds or however big it is. They just opened a new one out on Sternberg Road out in Marvingles area out there that it's a fairly decent sized facility. It's almost to the expressway on Sternberg Road, just beyond the mall area out there. And these new assisted living centers keep cropping up, and obviously somebody's building them because they can make some money off of them. They're not being built to borrow money from the county. How does the county and Brookhaven lose money every year? Why isn't it a profit center for the county?
Alan, have you had discussions? Because that's an extremely good question.
Well,
have you guys had the 11 county commissioners sat down and said, geez, why should we be giving them $500,000 a year and then every once in a while having to come up with a $2.5 million loan? You guys have had big discussions about this, right?
No, never.
Not a discussion at all.
No.
I think that's the answer.
Well,
because nobody cares.
You think about the great assisted living centers around here and waiting lists to get in Seminole Shores,
sure.
and these places that have been built in the last decade and a half or so, and and as baby boomers get older, the geezer crowd gets older, and we need more facilities like that. Why is the county operating one, first of all, to begin with, and second of all, why are they, if they are going to continue to operate one, why isn't it operated at a profit?
Is it a financial type thing though?
I don't know.
Can you get into Brookhaven if you're
They're
don't have the money?
Subsidized from Medicare.
No, they get subsidies. Matter of fact, there was a group not that many years ago that came in and said, we will buy Brookhaven from you. We will relieve you of ever having to do any more subsidies. We will adhere to the responsibility of having a certain number of Medicaid and Medicare patients, and we'll take it off your hands, and ultimately, if we're successful, we will make a profit. The county voted no on that. So the question that Alan or that John is asking, which there is no answer to, is
how do they lose money?
Is not even being asked. Not one of these 11 county commissioners, and I'll give you a little bit of a pass, Alan, but not one of these 11 county commissioners are sitting publicly and saying, asking the question John just asked, much less looking for an answer.
Well, the thing is that you got 4 or 5 commissioners that are at least around, according to Steve Gunn's column, that this was going on in 2007. So we've known this was going on, and somehow we've been doing this forever, and so it should be. We do need to look at whether this thing is feasible. But the thing is one of the commissioners, I heard him say that we just can't throw 300 employees on the street. It wasn't even about the old folks. It was really about whether we could throw 300 employees on the street. Well, they'll be reemployed because whoever buys it will reemploy people. They ain't out on the street.
Reemployable.
Yeah, and we're not taking old people and dragging them out by their foot and just chunking them on the sidewalk.
I go back in my experience with the County Planning Commission. During that era that I was on the County Planning Commission, we hired Jim Woods as a park superintendent up at Pioneer Park, and we went through a transition, and we started talking about day use fees and camping fees and everything else. Right now, there's not a very large line item in the budget, your budget, if at all, for county parks. Because the county parks pay for themselves, believe it or not.
Yes.
We had some pretty bright guys on that county planning commission who work with the county park system, and Jim Woods was a great guy to head that up to begin with. But literally all the seasonal employment, everything else, and the improvements to the park, and it was building up a cash reserve fund that was used for matching grants for state grants that were coming in, everything else. County park system.
So it can be done, is what you're saying.
It is being done right now.
And it is being done.
In a sense, that's true, but in a sense, it's also now not true anymore because we are borrowing money from the solid waste fund all the time to help the parks put roofs on, the matching grants.
Something's happened in the last 10 years.
We're buying
the same people in the last 10 years.
With
bad consultants.
Solid waste funds, too. So what we're doing, we're taking money from solid waste, which I'm totally against. I have been voting no on all that. And now giving that.
Now, wait a second. That's an interesting thought. So the solid waste fund, which I'm not even sure what that is, but it's a big pile of dough, apparently, that the county commissioners view as a small bank, I guess. The solid waste fund is making loans, making loans to the park, and where's the park going to get the money to pay the loans back? Did anybody ask that question?
I've been asking that question, but it's a 10-1 vote.
But again, the parks have the ability to generate funds.
This is what we're facing. But apparently they're not utilizing that ability to generate funds. If in fact they have to go to this phony baloney bank and borrow money from one pile of dough to the other.
If they can't pay that loan back, we have to cap that landfill off someday. That money is in that account to cap it off. Just like we always had money in wastewater to keep it running. And now we've depleted that. So the money is there for a
money
reason.
From places. Because I really do remember 15 years ago when we were working on day use fees at Twin Lake and Blue Lake and looking at camping fees, looking at what the state was doing right down the road, especially at Pioneer Park. And matching those fees, at least matching those fees. And it was building up, and literally the county at that point in time, there wasn't a line item budget for county parks because they were paying for themselves, and it was generating excess revenue was put in a fund for matching funds. As a matter of fact, we used the matching funds with one of the state grants from the DNR to build what we referred to at that time, and it probably isn't anymore, but the Mark Fairchild Olmos Memorial bathrooms at Pioneer Park. Mark's not dead yet, but Mark was kind of the lead when he was a county commissioner.
But because you managed it well, you managed it intelligently, then you had the additional funds to do smart things for the community.
They didn't have to borrow anything. They actually had money in there that was used for matching funds.
What a concept.
Well, and you know that we can't have any extra money there because some of these grants they just got, we only had to come up with $2,500 or whatever, and they still had to go to the wastewater fund or solid waste fund.
So we didn't even have enough money.
So we didn't even have enough money
to do the matching grants.
Yeah, just to try to even put a roof on the Pioneer.
Let me answer John's question earlier. It says how do we get to this point? And I'll give you a perfect example. I'm a boater, and John, you're a boater, and I keep my boat over at Great Lakes Marina. And there's another, I don't know what they call it. What's the city marina in Muskegon called?
Hartshorn.
Okay, the Hartshorn Marina. Yep. All right. Well, last spring I did this, and I did it in spring and summer. You can go to MuskegonPundit.com, and I posted the photos. But I took pictures of the marina, photos of the marina on the same day, within just a couple of minutes of it. And I drove by earlier this past week. It's still early in the season. But the Great Lakes Marina was packed. Now, of course, Great Lakes Marina pays property taxes, makes a profit, ultimately pays income taxes on that profit. The Hartshorn Marina, of course, doesn't pay any property taxes and certainly doesn't pay any income taxes. Great Lakes Marina was packed. It was filled with boats.
Sure, right.
Hartshorn Marina had 4 boats in it.
Well,
it was empty. Now, there's the management. The question would be that ought to be asked.
Well, that is, I don't think it has more to do with the management, Jim. With a municipal marina, and because federal funds and state funds were used to construct that, there is a mandate from the DNR, basically that says that I don't know what the number is, but
it's 10%.
It's more.
I know what you're talking. It's 10%.
Slips?
Yes, it's 10%. I used to own a marina.
It was much higher than that.
No, it is not. No, it's. I used to own a marina.
Because they're municipally owned. I thought it was more like 25 or 30% that had to be.
And even if it was, it doesn't matter because it only had 4 or 5 boats in it.
Yeah.
The reality is now I don't know enough about Hartshorn Marina to know if the mismanagement is at the city level or there's some county component or it's state or whatever. But the simple fact is this: you have two. It's an identical situation to the nursing home question that you just posed a moment ago, and that is that it's management. What in one case they have to think about it. The overhead cost of Great Lakes Marina is significant because they had to buy it. Hartshorn doesn't have any overhead costs. They certainly have maintenance, just like any other marina would have. They pay no property taxes. They don't have to ever worry about even filing income taxes, and certainly paying taxes on any profits. And yet, one is full and one is darn near empty year after year after year. That's the difference between government-owned, government-run, and private sector-owned, private sector-managed. And what we don't have, and what frightens me, is when we have our county commissioners talking about a significant expense of $35 million or who knows what, and they're not even looking at a private option.
From what I understand about the municipal marina there is that the rules are so constricting down there about who can be in there, when they can be in there.
It's management.
And I mean, the gate that slides open and shut, and how many people you can have in there, how many cars that are allowed. There's a whole bunch of rules in there that pretty much say, if you want to have a boat there, you're the only ones that can go to it.
Well, Soviet-style management, it didn't work for the Soviets, and it certainly doesn't seem to be working for Hartshorn Marina either.
Once you go to federal or state matches, they're going to put rules on. That's why I don't think they're talking now. The Clipper couldn't even maybe go into Heritage Landing at all, even if they wanted to, because of so many things we signed to.
Same thing that happened at Hartshorn Marine with the Clipper. I mean, they were going to pull the Clipper in there at one point in time. Had a nice site design plan out there by where the Port City Prince used to be, by the small boat basin out there in front of Cano's on the lake. And, I mean, the plan was great, and everybody thought that would be a perfect place for it because you could sit on the deck and look at Heritage Landing from there. I mean, sight lines were great and everything else. And all of a sudden they ran into saying, this is another nonprofit that's going to make money off something that the federal government paid to have dredged, and they had the seawalls put in, and they couldn't do it because of federal and state regulations saying that they couldn't put it there.
Any businessman, and certainly Alan knows that it's the government regulations, which we certainly need regulations. No one out there is suggesting get rid of all regulations, but what's happened is an explosion. What did we say? 40-some thousand brand new laws hit the United States on January 2nd of this past year. Hey, we're running out of time here, but one quick thing. I know this will be dear to your heart, Alan. The Fruitport schools just came out. I'm sorry, Ravenna schools. 4th graders are all getting new iPads, just like the county commissioners. And apparently this is incredible because they were able to buy these because there was money left over from the last millage. So if you like fiscal responsibility and great decisions, you'll love the Ravenna School Board's purchasing for 4th graders. Now, these are 4th graders getting new iPads. They apparently think this is such a great idea they want to expand it to everyone. So that'll be exciting, and I understand the teachers and the students all think it's a great idea. Again, great idea. No mention of cost, no mention of the fact that schools are, on one hand, the teachers are screaming there's no money. On the other hand, they're saying, ooh, iPads are cool. We are coming to the end of another very interesting show. Thank you, Alan. Don't forget, again, check out the WKBZ website if you want to listen to us on your iPad,
on your iPad,
or your cell phone. There we go. I would imagine all the county commissioners are listening to us.
Are going to be listening to us.
Yeah, there we go. But that's newstalk1090.com. And, of course, you can go to EyeOnMuskegon.com. We do post the show on audio on Sunday afternoons, and we are on every Monday from 8 p.m. to 9:30 on TV channel 38, which is Comcast channel 397. And I'm on John's show, John, the #1 rated drive time show in the county, Talking Muskegon. I'm on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with John, and hopefully we'll see Brian back. We think Brian's got monkeypox, but we're not sure.
Get those little critters out of his system.
But thank you guys and gals.
We might all be there. Who knows?
Thanks, Oscar. Thank you, John. And next Sunday, It's going to be May. I cannot believe May is coming by, folks. We will be back again with the same crew, or not the same crew, but a similar-looking crew anyway, a bunch of old geezer men probably. We're looking for women. And we will be back. Don't forget, again, Monday night we're on TV. You can see us live, sort of live, at least we're animated. And coming up next is Tom Sanaki's Polka Melodies. Hope you all have a great week in our little piece of heaven, folks. Next week we'll put the eye on you, Muskegon.
A message from Orlando Bloom, Liam Neeson, Lawrence Fishburne, Salma Hayek, and Téa Leoni.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes.
Like not getting enough food or medicine.
Or clean, safe water to drink.
But we are gaining ground. A generation ago, twice as many children were dying.
Still, 24,000 every day?
I believe.
I believe.
I believe that number should be zero.
Believe in zero.
Join the effort. Visit unicefusa.org.
If you even think you may be in danger of foreclosure, call the National Foundation for Credit Counseling today at 866-687-6322 or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. That's 866-687-6322 or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. This has been a public service from the NFCC.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090, WKBC Muskegon, and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
Good morning. Welcome to the Polka Melodies. It's Sunday, April 29th, 2012. The end of April is upon us. My goodness, this week we'll be turning our calendars to the month of May. Let's hope the weather cooperates with us and warms up.